What's up, Melanated family? This is your boy Harrison from MelanatedFathers.com and Melanated Fathers TV, bringing you another episode of what I like to call What's the Scenario. Now, What's the Scenario is where we bring up a specific scenario facing our children, facing our relationships, facing how we handle ourselves in society. And by no stretch of the imagination will we come up with answers today, but the goal is to create different perspectives, right? Just to give you different ways of seeing something that may have been on your mind, or give you different ways to see something that you may not have thought about before, right? So let's check it out. What I want to talk about today is all my parents out there. What do you do, or what would you do rather, if you find out your teenage child is smoking weed? Right now, of course, in today's society, weed has become legal if you're over 21. We keep it real. A lot of us still smoke weed now. A lot of us smoked weed when we were teenagers. It's really normalized in society. But how do you handle it when your teenager tells you they smoke weed, or you find out your teenager is smoking weed? Right now, my perspective on this, being on both ends of the spectrum, being a teenager who smoked weed, being an adult who had a child who actually smoked weed, right? I think the first thing you should do is take personal inventory. Like, have I smoked around my child? Does my child know that I smoke weed? This is if you are a parent that smokes, right? I think first thing to do, growing up, a lot of us had the mentality that, and we were told by our parents, the do as I say, not as I do mentality. But I'm here to tell you, family, that's completely fucking false. That's actually flipped. Kids are going to do whatever you do, and rarely what you say. You feel me? So if you're a parent who smokes weed and your kid has seen you smoke weed, or they know you smoke weed, then if you find out they're doing it, in my opinion, your approach to them has to be a little bit different. Not so disciplinarian in your points, but more or less teaching and giving them information. Right now, if we're talking about a 14, 15, 16-year-old kid, in my opinion, regardless of if you smoke or not, you have to tell them, give them information. You may not want to come down on them too bad, but younger people like that, their brain, the prefrontal cortex of their brain isn't quite developed yet, and smoking weed at that age can affect them in a lot of ways, just with just the brain development being changes in mood, irritability, and anxiety, not being as goal oriented as they need to be. Now, this can be with kids that are 17, 18, 19 as well, but I know for sure if they're younger, then it's a bigger chance of it actually affecting their day-to-day ability for their brain to develop, right? So it's a serious topic, y'all, that we need to talk about, and that we need to bring to the table, because some people feel, if a teenager smokes weed, then it's better than cigarettes, or it's better than alcohol, and it's better than, other harder drugs, which there is some truth to that matter, but we can affect you as a teen. It can actually get in the way of things you're trying to do. So it's important to learn the personality of your child, because if you know that you figure out that your child is smoking weed, and then you notice that they're lacking off in school, or maybe they're not as goal oriented as they once were. These are things that we got to look at. And then it becomes a situation where, as a parent, you have to give ultimatums. Now, people, whether you're an adult or a younger person, I think typically people are going to do what they want to do, right? But as a parent, to put yourself in a situation where you're telling your kids you're pretty much cool with them smoking weed, I'll be honest, looking at this in hindsight, I don't think that should ever be the case. You should be firm on how you believe, on what you believe in, and then you're looking directly at the kids' personal performance and their personal development. Because in my opinion, if you have a child that's a straight A student, if you have a child that doesn't really have any disciplinary problems, doesn't really have any problems in school, and then you find out that they smoke weed, it's going to affect you differently if you have a child that's a fuck up, if you have a child that's always getting in trouble, if you have a child that's not responsible. If that's the situation with your child, smoking weed for them is really going to be a bad thing, because it's going to enhance all of those negative attributes, right? So, I mean, these are isolated situations where we can't paint all of this with a broad brush and just say, okay, kids smoking weed, punish them, reprimand them and all this shit. There is ways to do that, but you have to look at the individual personality of your child. How influential are they? Are they leaders? Are they a follower? You know what I'm saying? Because if you have a child that's not motivated, that's not goal oriented, that's very irresponsible, that's a follower, weed or any type of drug is the worst possible thing for them. So then you have to put them, you have to monitor them closely. You got to treat them like a little kid. You see what I'm saying? And I know a lot of parents out there, especially us who are a little bit younger, especially us who, you know, we have teenagers or young adults, and we're not 50, 60 years old. We're still in our 30s and 40s. You see what I'm saying? So I think being younger parents, sometimes we tend to kind of go down the friendship route. And hear me when I say this, family, that's never okay. We have a large problem, in my opinion, in our society where we become almost friends with our kids instead of mentors. You know what I'm saying? If you create a friendship with your child, there's going to become a time where there's a level of disrespect that takes place that's going to be difficult for you to manage, because you've already opened the door for this lenient type of behavior in this friendship type of environment with your child. It makes it more difficult for them to listen to you and take your tutelage when need be, right? So it's if you find out your kid is smoking weed, or you're suspicious about it, it's definitely cause to talk to them. It's definitely cause to dig into what's going on. Don't just dismiss it as this, oh, that's just weed, it ain't gonna do nothing to them. No, if you're a young person smoking weed, it can affect a lot of the things that you need at that time, right? Being 16, 17, this is when we just start being responsible. This is when it's time for college. This is when adulthood is about to take place. And the worst thing you can have when adulthood is about to take place is a substance that's making you unclear, a substance that's playing with your emotions to a degree. You haven't even mastered or taken into account how your different emotions will be affected by different things. I mean, a teenager is a person that really hasn't had as many experiences as an adult, right? So you goddamn right, if they're smoking too much weed, it can fuck up their focus, and it can very well change the course of their life as far as them going to college, them working a job, them taking life serious. You see what I'm saying? So even though weed has been legalized and I personally smoke, you know what I'm saying? I don't lie about that. I don't hide that from my children that are a little bit older, just to be honest. I open it up as a conversation. I open it up as giving them the facts about it. You see what I'm saying? Because that's how I operate personally. But, you know, even if you're a parent who don't smoke and you find out your kid is smoking, I think either type of parent, we still need to be cognizant of how these things can affect our kids, right? And make sure that we stay on them about it. Make sure that we let them know that we don't think it's okay for them to be doing that. But of course, like I said, if you're a parent that smokes yourself, if you're a parent that, you know, your kids know you smoke, then you may have to approach it a little bit differently, because you don't want to come off too preachy. You have to acknowledge that it's something that you do as well, right? So let's talk about that, family. If you have kids that are smoking, or kids that are thinking about smoking, if they're open with you about it, my personal opinion, kids should wait. Now, I know that's not really that probable in today's society, but I think kids should wait. A clear mind is like a real important commodity for a young person who's trying to get their life together, who's trying to move forward in the most positive manner, right? So that's been another episode of What's the Scenario. Let's talk about it. Comment, share the video like you guys always do, family. I'm out.